Hello everyone, Inventor719 here, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you a free way to make your airsoft or pellet gun faster. So for this video what you're going to need is your airsoft gun, of course. I just have a little Walmart Springer pistol if you're wondering, just so you don't have to ask me in the comments below. This one's called the Colt Double Eagle Series 90. Used it in my last video actually, where I plasti dipped it black. As you can see, I took off the top part because it looks kind of cool. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. Anyway, you're also going to need some screwdrivers. I have a flathead and a Phillips. Depends on your type of gun, basically just to take it apart. You're also going to need a vise or something like a clamp, airsoft BBs, and you won't need this, but I have a chronograph, which basically measures the feet per second or the FPS of your gun, just to prove that this actually works. So quickly before going ahead and doing the mod, I loaded up the magazine and I'm going to take 5 shots through my chronograph to get an average reading of what this gun is shooting so we can compare afterwards. So here we go, taking 5 random shots. That was 209.2 feet per second. You might just be able to see that there. 209.2. Pretty quick little spring airsoft gun. Let's take a few more shots. Air again. I got 210 on the dot. So I'll average those out and compare it to after at the end of the video. So to make our airsoft gun faster, basically all spring airsoft guns work on the principle of converting the the potential energy into the spring into kinetic energy, which propels the BB forward. And as you can see, when you cock the airsoft gun, it compresses the spring and leaves it compressed until you push the trigger and it launches forward. Now basically, the more compressed this spring will get, the more potential energy it has, which is converted to kinetic energy when the trigger is pulled, and thus it should fire faster. So to do this mod, we're going to basically start taking apart our gun here, which is where the screwdriver comes in handy. Most guns will have a pin above the trigger where you can push through, just like that. You can probably use your hands, but that was easier. And then by pulling forward on the top, the slide of the gun, you should just be able to move the handle aside, and we can start looking at the underside of the gun. As you can see, there's the spring. This is, I think, the loading mechanism, but all we care about for this video is the spring, and now we're going to work on getting that out. So to get out the spring on this specific model, there's 2 little screws at the back here, so I'm going to go ahead and undo those. Just 2 little Phillips screws. Make sure not to lose them. And I'm expecting, as you can see, there's nothing stopping this from popping outwards for the spring to push it out. So I'm going to put my thumb over here. Always a good idea. Okay, I was wrong. It didn't just pop out, but let's see if with a little force we can get it to come out. So yeah, with a bit of prying, I was able to get the black piece out and the spring, and as I warned you guys, it did shoot everywhere, so make sure to be careful. So now here's the power spring we're concerned about. As you can see, it's a pretty heavy duty spring. Now before we get into modifying it, I'm going to go ahead and measure it for you guys. As we're in Canada, we're going to go ahead and use metric, and it is exactly 8 centimeters or 80 millimeters long. So to modify it, what we're going to do is stretch it a little bit. So to stretch the spring, I'm basically going to use my vise here and clamp onto it and then pull as hard as I can. But of course, if you have a airsoft crazy brother like yourself, I would totally recommend using them, because you don't want to crush the spring. As you can see, I'm holding on to it, but any more might start crushing it. And that's about all I want. And now I'm going to start pulling. Maybe I'll put him in there for support as well. Gonna start pulling. You don't want to make it too floppy, but you still want to stretch it. It's hard to tell when it's stretching. But basically just pull as hard as you can. Hopefully you went to the gym. Now, it feels a little bit stretched, but I'm not quite sure, so I'm going to take out my tape measure. So now we have 8.5. Okay, I'm going to try and stretch it a little more off camera and get back to you guys. So here we are back with a spring after using my hands pretty much just to stretch it. I was able to get it to around 10 centimeters. It's around 9.5 to 10, which is a 1.5 centimeter increase, which when it was only originally 8 centimeters long is probably, just under 25%. So when we put it all back together, I'd like to see a 25% increase in speed, which is around 50 feet per second, doing some quick math. It doesn't work exactly like that, but let's see how close it is. Alright, now time to go ahead and put this together. Now, it kind of, like I said, exploded when it came apart. But basically, if I remember correctly, there's a few pieces. I got the plunger, a little holder, and we'll call this the butt or the stop of it. So what I'm going to try doing is first putting in the plunger with the groove in the slide, just like that. Now, it'll be harder to reassemble because the spring is that much longer. Then we're going to have the spring in there. And then I believe this butt, or this is the kind of the guide, where as you can see it also has a tooth that will go in the slide. Taking it apart, I did actually chip my airsoft gun a little bit, which is kind of upsetting. Hopefully it still goes back together. I personally don't care much about the airsoft gun because it was only 20 bucks at Walmart. But let's see if we can get it to break 250 feet per second. Alright, I'm just going to go ahead and squish this together now. And hopefully it works. So there you go, I managed to squish it all back in there. Then to put it back together, just basically do the opposite of what you did the first time. Push the slide back on this way. And then get your little connector or plug piece. Put it in there like that. And let's do some shooting tests. Okay, so here's the second shooting test. This is after modification. And just in case you're playing along at home, I'm using the exact same ammo. They're ultrasonic 0.2 gram BBs, 6mm of course. Here we go, firing 3, 2, 1. First shot, alright, not bad. I got 218, so definitely an increase in FPS. Again, for free, you can't really complain. 218.6, which is actually around 10 FPS faster than the first shot we took. So let's do another shot here. 3, 2, 1. Didn't see that one. Let's try again. Second shot, I got 216.9. Here we go. Number 3, I got 217.4. Shooting test number 4. 213.2. And we'll try and do one more shooting test here. Sorry, trying to hold the camera and cock the gun at the same time. Alright, test number 5. 214.8. Let me add up the numbers and get back to you. So, the results are in, and there's good news and bad news. The good news, of course, is that the mod does work, and it did effectively increase the FPS of my gun, and I proved it with my chronograph. Now, the bad news is, as you saw in the tests, the numbers were not amazing. I averaged out the before and after, and before the average was around 210.9. After it was around 216, which is around a 3% increase, or as you can see, around 6 FPS. Now, I only stretched the spring by a few centimeters, so as you can imagine, it's not that much stiffer. If you doubled it, you'd definitely see more gains. But a little precaution I will put in here: when stretching the spring, it will put more pressure on parts like the trigger latch, probably the loading mechanism. So there could also be a higher chance of jamming your gun, breaking an internal part. So I wouldn't recommend doing this to an expensive gun or one you don't want to see break by accident. you could also go to the hardware store and buy yourself a spring that's the same length but has more coils, which is thus tougher to compress. I might do that in a future video, maybe take you guys on a shopping trip with me to the store. But overall, this does work. It'll also work with pellet guns, anything that is powered by a spring, not air or electric, obviously. If you guys want, I can make videos, as I have a few ideas on how to make air and electric guns faster. If you want to see that, comment down below. But for today's video, thanks for watching, everyone. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe.